Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the Atlantic Council, Frederick Camp. سيداتي وسادتي، لنرحب بفريدريك كامب الرئيس والمدير التنفيذي للمجلس الأطلسي.
With climate and recipient of the Atlantic Council's highest honor, our Global Citizen Award, and also to see the special presidential coordinator, who's been a partner and a friend of this forum for a long time, and also a former board member of the Atlantic Council. I also want to welcome and salute our new senior director of the Global Energy Center, Landon Durrance. I want to thank Reed Blakemore, who's been his acting and still his deputy, and their remarkable team. You're going to see them all over in the next couple of days, and please thank them for their work. Much has changed since we last gathered here at the St. Regis in Abu Dhabi in January of 2020, just weeks before the global shutdowns due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And much has changed since we convened the 2022 Global Energy Forum in March, alongside the World Government Summit in Dubai, just weeks after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And even now, on the cusp of the UAE's hosting of a COP28 next December, I expect that this year will be yet another one of transformative change. Our shared values and commitment to energy security and global decarbonization remains steadfast. And this gathering of leaders from across energy, economics, and politics is here to set the energy and climate agenda for this coming year, and it's probably never been more critical to do that. So I'm just going to say a few words about the themes of this year's forum. and what we hope to accomplish over the next 2 days. As I think back to the year that just ended, the most significant inflection point, of course, was Putin's invasion of Ukraine last February. A geopolitical crisis in Europe quickly became a global energy crisis, and it threw energy security into sharp relief while countries still worked to maintain a sustainable energy transition. Though there are geopolitical lessons to be drawn from the past year, we also saw the energy trilemma emerge clearly as decision makers and stakeholders tried to balance sustainable, affordable, and secure energy. Our call to action is that even amid geopolitical tension, even amid economic stress, we must take care to avoid the false choice between secure and affordable energy and a sustainable transition. So how do we get from where we are now to net zero by 2050? And what are the technologies that will enable a secure and equitable energy transition? That's going to be the heart of what we're talking about in the next 2 days. I'm not here to pick and choose my favorite clean energy technologies, though I have them. But I will say this: true net zero enablers require reliable supply chains, and they address the power sector and hard-to-abate sectors like heavy industry manufacturing, desalinization, hydrogen production, and more. So I look forward to hearing from energy and climate experts and leaders and learning much more over the next 2 days. As the current geopolitical and energy crisis forces us to think seriously about the energy trilemma and pathways to net zero, we are fortunate to be here in Abu Dhabi, where COP28, hosted in the UAE later this year, November 30th, December 12th, shines bright on the horizon. The Global Energy Forum follows on the heels of COP27, hosted by Egypt as the first African COP since the Paris Agreement. Sharm el-Sheikh emphasized the importance of implementation by all communities to empower an inclusive energy transition. We all look forward to the UAE's opportunity to advance these ideas around an inclusive and reliable energy transition, which will be at the center of the global community's endeavors to meet the challenge of climate change. In light of the UAE's tremendous successes, especially in building nuclear reactors, advancing solar power and other renewables, decarbonizing aluminum, there is no better place to bring the climate and energy communities together to convene these conversations of paramount importance. The announcement late last year of the U.S.-UAE Partnership for Accelerating Clean Energy, or PACE, which will, according to the White House, catalyze $100 billion in financing, investment, other support, and deploy 100 gigawatts of clean energy by 2035 to advance the energy transition and maximize climate benefits, offers clear evidence of the serious and sophisticated commitment to net zero. In this era, we need true leadership more than ever, and we're fortunate to welcome top energy and climate policy leaders. We have 10 ministers joining us, 16 members of the Atlantic Council's Board of Directors, 3 members of our International Advisory Board, more than 3 dozen CEOs, a large number of civil society experts, media, officials of various governments. You're all welcome here. It's a very exciting group for this period of time. And with leadership in mind, I want to recognize and congratulate Dr. Sultan Al-Jaber, who just this week was named Presidential Designate of COP28. As the reality that we are falling ever behind on meeting the targets for climate action, at the same time that we navigate an energy crisis, the optimism of renewed ambitions alone are no longer enough. As I said to CNBC under the hot questioning of Hadley Gamble yesterday, there is no individual I know that is better prepared and equipped to take on this task than Dr. Sultan. It requires the breaking of silos, it requires transformative thinking and action, and that's something he's done throughout his entire career. We need transformative action and transformative actors who understand the energy system of the present, but have the vision, ambition, and skill to build the net zero energy system of the future, which is necessary to save the planet. I'm confident that Dr. Sultan is more than capable of rising to the opportunity of a new energy pragmatism, which brings the climate and energy communities together in the name of shared action. And with that, I'm delighted to turn the floor over to our longtime partner and dear friend, Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, President of COP28.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome COP28 President-designate United Arab Emirates Special Envoy for Climate Change and Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology and Abu Dhabi National Oil Company's Managing Director and Group CEO, His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber. سيداتي وسادتي، لنرحب بمعالي الدكتور سلطان بن أحمد الجابر المبعوث الخاص لدولة الإمارات للتغير المناخي ورئيسا معينا للدورة 28 من مؤتمر الأطراف في اتفاقية الأمم المتحدة الإطارية بشأن تغير المناخ، وزير الصناعة والتكنولوجيا المتقدمة العضو المنتدب والرئيس التنفيذي لأدنوك ومجموعة شركاتها كوب 28.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Good morning, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. Welcome to the United Arab Emirates, to Abu Dhabi, and to the 7th Atlantic Council Global Energy Forum. And thank you, Fred, for your kind introduction. Thank you for your leadership, for your partnership, and for making sure that we always have the right mix of expertise participating in this very important forum. And as the opening event of Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week, this forum helps set the energy agenda for the year ahead. And as the UAE prepares to host COP28, the Emirates Climate Conference, this year carries a very special significance. The UAE approaches this task with humility, a clear sense of responsibility, and a great sense of urgency. Like all countries around the world, the UAE is exposed to the risks of climate change. We have always considered environmental stewardship as an integral part of our economy and view climate action as central to the successful development of our nation. We are proud to be the host country of the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, the first country in our region to commit to the Paris Agreement, the first in the region to submit a nationally determined contribution, and the first to set out a roadmap to net zero. And we will continue to focus on this very important journey. More than 18 years ago, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the President of the United Arab Emirates, had a long-term vision of the future, and he took a bold step when he decided to establish Masdar. This was our first major, practical, proactive move into the energy transition. Under His Highness's guidance, Masdar has grown to become one of the largest renewable energy investors in the world and is aiming for a 100 gigawatt portfolio by 2030. Over the last 15 years, the UAE has invested a total of 50 billion US dollars in renewable energy and clean tech globally and plans to invest another 50 billion US dollars in the years ahead. And beyond investing in new energies, it was His Highness who said, there will be a time when we load the last barrel of oil. And he continued, if our plans and investments today are right, it will be a moment of celebration. This call to action by His Highness at the World Government Summit in 2015 clearly underscored his vision for sustainable development, delivered by economic diversification and enabled by a rapid transition of our energy systems. And today, over 70% of our economy is generated outside the oil and gas sector. And as the founding CEO and chairman of Masdar and the MD and CEO of ADNOC, I will continue to follow our leadership's vision and guidance in making today's energy cleaner while advancing and continuing to invest in the clean energies of tomorrow. And we will use our experience, our ambition, and deep and rich network of partnerships to inform our approach to COP28. During the course of the year ahead, we will work very closely with COP27 Egyptian presidency, the UN FCCC Secretariat, and of course, all relevant parties to build on and accelerate progress made before us. Yet, we must be honest with ourselves about how much progress we have actually achieved and how much further and faster we truly need to go. Of course, we have collectively achieved major milestones along our journey. In Glasgow, 90% of the world's economy is committed to net zero by 2050. Sharm el-Sheikh elevated the voices of the Global South, put loss and damage firmly on the agenda, and started to address reforming the climate finance system. COP28 will have particular significance as it will mark the first global stocktake, a comprehensive assessment of progress against the goals of the Paris Agreement. And we don't need to wait for the stocktake to know what it will actually say. We are way off track. We are way off track. The world is playing catch up when it comes to the key Paris goal of holding global temperatures down to 1.5 degrees. And the hard reality is that in order to achieve this goal, global emissions must fall 43% by 2030. To add to that challenge, we must decrease emissions at a time of continued economic uncertainty, heightened geopolitical tensions, and increasing pressure on energy security. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no other way to really address our climate challenge. we need to make transformational progress. And for that to happen, we must be prepared. We must be prepared to transform the process with the support of all parties and stakeholders. We want COP28 to transform systems and accelerate 2030 trajectories through game-changing partnerships, game-changing solutions, and real, tangible outcomes. We want it to be a COP of solidarity that bridges global north and south and includes public and private sectors, scientists and civil society, women and youth. And we want it to be a practical COP, a COP of action, a COP for all, a COP that raises ambition and moves from goals to actually getting it done across mitigation, adaptation, loss and damage, and of course, finance. Allow me to elaborate on those points one by one. On mitigation, we know that many of the solutions do exist. Scaling renewables and nuclear and hydrogen and carbon capture and energy efficiency, and of course, the least carbon-intensive oil and gas, as well as new technologies yet to be developed and deployed. Wind and solar added the record growth of 550 gigawatts between 2020 and 2022, and are on course to grow more over the next 5 years than over the last 20 combined. The market is actually telling us something here. The market is telling us something. We are at a turning point in history. Low carbon growth is the future, but we must get there much faster. We must triple renewable energy generation from 8 to 23 terawatt hours by 2030. We must more than double low carbon hydrogen production to at least 180 million tons for hard to abate sectors. We also need to transform our food and our agriculture systems, because we know that agriculture accounts for 1/3 of global emissions. Much greater investment in agri-tech, smarter water use, and food production is needed to transform this critical sector alongside many other sectors. And we need to do all this in an accelerated time frame against a fast approaching deadline. And let me just add this. Our world is on its way to being home to 9.7 billion people by 2050. And will have to produce 30% more energy than what is available today. And as long as the world still uses hydrocarbons, we must ensure they are the least carbon intensive possible. We'll work with the energy industry on accelerating the decarbonization, reducing methane, and expanding hydrogen. Let's keep our focus on holding back emissions, not progress. On adaptation, the number one priority is very clear. We must do more to protect our most vulnerable communities and our most critical systems from extreme weather and biodiversity loss. We must protect our rainforests and invest in nature-based solutions like mangroves that act as powerful carbon sinks while protecting coastlines and preserving natural ecosystems. We must ensure that our global food system is resilient to the changing weather patterns that threaten farmers around the world. And to enable this progress, we must double adaptation finance for the Global South to $40 billion annually by 2025. On climate finance, we simply need more. And we need it to be more affordable. And we need it to be much more accessible. We need to ensure that every concessional dollar is matched by $2 or $3 of private capital. To make this happen, we need to answer the call from the international community for inclusive reform of the multilateral development banks and international financial institutions. In fact, that is a critical success factor. And to encourage this process, the UAE, as chair of the World Bank IMF Development Committee, intends to play a proactive, supportive, and facilitating role. And on loss and damage, we need to help the most vulnerable to rebuild after climate-related disasters. Together with the international community, we must build on the progress made in Sharm el-Sheikh and fully operationalize the Loss and Damage Fund. Distinguished delegates, dear friends, as an ambitious young nation that continues to evolve, the UAE has grown through partnerships, opened up to new ideas, and learned many, many lessons along the way. We don't claim to have all the answers, but we believe we have something valuable that we can contribute. At the crossroads of North and South, East and West, we will listen. We will engage with all those who wants to engage. We will listen. And we will engage with those who want to engage. We will build bridges. And we will pursue global consensus in this very important collective effort. Together with the high-level champion, Her Excellency Razan al-Mubarak, and the youth champion, Her Excellency Sham al-Mazrou'i, we will work very closely with the UNFCCC to move from ambition to real action. And we will mobilize the private sector and all other sectors to deliver greater, more meaningful impact. So let me extend an open invitation to all parties across government, private sector, and civil society. Cooperate, collaborate, share your ideas, and talk to us. I am here to listen, and I am here to engage. We can only succeed if we have an open and constructive dialogue. Let us together create a paradigm shift for tangible progress. And let us remember that reaching net zero emissions will deliver the biggest market transformation with the greatest economic and human promise since the first industrial revolution. I urge all parties to help make COP28 a COP of concrete outcomes and practical solutions. We are united by our common goal. We are united by our common humanity. And we look forward to hosting you all in the United Arab Emirates, where together we can ensure sustainable development for this generation and all generations to come. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage Mr. Frederick Camp. سيداتي وسادتي، لنرحب مرة أخرى بفريدريك كامب الرئيس والمدير التنفيذي للمجلس الأطلسي.
Dr. Sultan, wow, that was a call to action if ever I've heard one. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for kicking off the 2023 Global Energy Forum in such fine style. In just a few minutes, we're going to have a very special event to follow. Another distinguished guest and friend, His Excellency Suhail Al-Mazroui, the Minister of Energy and Infrastructure of the United Arab Emirates, will be joined by His Excellency Saad Sharida Al-Kabi, the Minister of Energy of the State of Qatar, as well as the President and CEO of Qatar Energy. Of all the things we've done over the last 7 years at the Atlantic Council, we haven't had a conversation with the two of these gentlemen on the same stage at the same time, so we're really looking forward to that. And the other thing I'm really proud of is how quickly the team can actually set things up. So, ministers, please come join us. I'm not sure.
You want to sit in the middle?
I think it's better you sit in the middle, and I'll sit here. It's an honor to be with the two of you today, and thank you for helping us kick this off. Concerns around energy security and improving energy access to the developing world have been at the top of the agenda this year, with natural gas being a major area of attention given Europe's efforts to rapidly diversify its natural gas imports. So I actually have two questions. One of them is, we had quite an extraordinary, for the two of you to kick us off. One of them is that we had a quite extraordinary 2022 in the energy world. And a little bit of reflection on that, but what you expect for 2023. But then on world natural gas questions, prices spiked this year, but seem to be returning back to earth. And then within 2023, in your eyes, does it reflect an equilibrium of supply and demand balance for gas? Or do you foresee in 2023 further imbalances on the horizon in the short term, but through this year? So a look at the year ahead, a reflection on the year past with a specific look at what you expect for natural gas.
Well, first I'd like to thank you for hosting me and thank my very good friend, His Excellency Suhail, for inviting me to this event. It's a pleasure to be back in the UAE with such a distinguished audience. I think if you look at the gas supply demand and what happened last year, it started actually before the Ukraine, where the lack of investment in the oil and gas sector caused really a shortage in gas. And ahead of the Ukraine, the oil and gas prices obviously were clearly going higher due to lack of supply. And that lack of investment was driven by many factors, including the bigger push for the green without having a real plan for how the transition is going to happen. So there was a scarcity of investment over about 5-6 years. And then when the Ukraine situation happened, a big volume was taken out of the market, and obviously that would take it even further up. I think, 23 22, the spike is very obvious why, but 23, I think it has come down as everybody has witnessed. But you know, the mild winter, I think, in Europe is the biggest cause. And there is storage, I mean, ample storage, but they haven't had, luckily, they haven't had a very high demand for gas due to the warmer weather. The issue is what's going to happen when they want to replenish their storages in this coming year and the next year. There isn't much gas coming into the market until 25, 26, 27. So I think it's going to be a volatile situation for some time to come.
And prices will be volatile with it. It'll be going up and down.
Yeah, prices are a factor of supply demand. I think some people think that we are very happy for high oil prices and so on. The biggest worry that we would have, I think, as oil and gas producer is demand destruction. And you can see that there is demand destruction with whether it's gas or oil. And unfortunately, you know, I think the wonderful speech that we heard from His Excellency Sultan, you know, talks about what we're going to do going forward, and we're all for what he mentioned. But you can't have coal at record highs and say that we are going to achieve our targets. You know, 30% of the power in the world uses coal, and all the countries that were calling for coal to be stopped are using it at record levels today. So I think we need to take you know, a very serious action, and I think coal is the biggest emitter by far. And I don't see I see a lot of attack on oil and gas companies and demonizing oil and gas companies. I don't see the same attack on the biggest polluter on the planet.
I'm really looking forward to coming back to you about the demonization question. Mr. Minister, you have lived through so much change and so much history since you took over as the minister. Everything from OPEC Plus to what we experienced last year, rolling off the war in Ukraine. How do you look at 2022, what you expect for 2023, and the same question, particularly with a particular focus on natural gas?
Well, first of all, it's glad to see this crowd. I think probably this is the biggest Atlantic Council energy that we have ever since we started, and I'm grateful for His Excellency and for all of your excellencies for coming. Actually, I would build on what His Excellency Saad mentioned. We've been talking about the lack of investments and the lack of interest from the financial institutions to finance fossil or oil and gas projects. And part of that is also the lack of understanding what is the future for many countries when it comes to energy strategy, what contributions or what percentages they would have of gas, or even the pace of reducing their coal. It's not clear. I mean, there are plans, but those plans are not concrete, and that unclear long-term strategy by many countries put them in a situation where it's very difficult for them to commit for a long-term gas contracts, which is then return made the companies or those who are developing the gas at a very difficult position with their financiers, because they would like to see a long-term contracts, and those long-term contracts are not there. Everyone wants to buy, but they want to buy in a 2 years or 3 years span. And that is not enough for someone to develop gas. Gas is available, and there are huge discoveries in the recent history. But the development pace is not there, and the investment is not there. So that is one of the problems, or one of the issues that causing the problem today. Of course, Russia is a major producer of gas and LNG. And when you shift from one location to another, trying to adjust, that takes time. And that's what happened in 2022, where some of that gas have been relocated to another market, and other gas from other market is homing to Europe, especially from the US. But is that sustainable in the longer run? I think you would need more collaboration between the European nations on agreeing on the optimization of the FSRUs that are also limited, and also agree on some pipelines. I think one of the things that contributes to energy security is pipeline gas. And together with Qatar and with Oman, we have established the first regional Middle East pipeline that secured and made energy security affordable and available for the three countries. And I think in the future, if you ask me about the future, I think we need to do more of these projects. There are countries which requires gas, and we cannot do everything as LNG. I think State of Qatar and His Excellency personally is involved in some of the largest expansions of LNG. Dr. Sultan as well and ADNOC, they are also increasing their capacity of exporting. But even with that, with those investments, it's not enough. Gas has to be available and has to be affordable to secure and to become a base load that helps the renewable energy and help cleaning up the environment and reaching the COP goals. We are committed. We will do the investments, but I think the whole world need to think about the resources and need to think about how we enable the companies and the IOCs and the NOCs to produce more gas to make it available and affordable.
Thank you for that answer. Minister Al-Kaabi, I want to come back to your comment about demonization. This is a country that's one of the, I guess, OPEC's third largest producer of energy. It's also a country that's been a pioneer. Dr. Sultan talked about Masdar in the renewable space at the same time. In the COP process in the past, the climate community and the fossil fuel providers were rarely in the same room. Are you seeing a change? Climate community seems to be more open now to particularly natural gas as a bridging fuel, more open to nuclear power as well, other solutions in decarbonizing carbon. And the fossil fuel community is investing billions in new technologies, in renewables, et cetera. Dr. Sultan was talking about a paradigm shift. Is that too utopian to think that that's where we're going? Talk a little bit about how you think these two communities can come together and actually accelerate the reduction of emissions, not slow it down.
If I can just be a little bit blunt maybe about this, is the community that was driving the green was living in a dream that they realized they can't achieve. Okay? And basically, if you want to achieve what we all want to achieve, I think we're the hottest place in the world probably. So climate change affects us more than most. For us, it's very important that we head in that direction. It's very important that we achieve these goals, but we need to be realistic about what we can and cannot achieve. And we can't be driven by just political agendas of people wanting to be elected. Okay? It should be based on reality, based on what can be achieved. I'm an engineer. You tell me I want to achieve an objective, I'll tell you, okay, can I do it? Put the plan, what's the budget, and we achieve it at this timeline. But just to talk about achieving net zero, and the majority of the countries that you talk to, they talk about net zero, and you say, how are you going to achieve it? They say, we achieve 60-70% of it by 2040 by doing this, this, and that. and the rest is technology improvement. So that, I'm not a native English speaker, but that doesn't mean we will achieve net zero. It means we'll strive to, we'll try, we'll see what we can do to achieve it, okay? So to me, I think the realization of the need for gas, because wind doesn't blow all the time, solar is not available all day, and technology improvements in storage and so on is going to improve, and there are a lot of things that will improve and hopefully help us in that sphere. But I think there are two sources that will be needed for the very long time for people that don't have hydro and other renewable energies. You need nuclear for those that can afford it and are capable of building it and have the technology. And you need gas. And these two will have to be the base load for countries for a very long time. And I don't agree that gas is a transition fuel. I think it's a destination fuel until we have a realistic solution that can do away with gas. It's a destination fuel that you will need for a very long time. And when we say we need more investments in gas, and as His Excellency mentioned, they're expanding in LNG. We're building 65 million tons. We're producing 77 million tons today. We're building 65 million tons of LNG that has already been FID'd. Okay? Now, so almost double. 48 million tons coming from Qatar, and our investment in the US is another 16 to 18 million tons. So we're bringing really a lot of gas to the market, but it's not enough. And you can't achieve what we need as humanity and the number of people that are going to grow, as His Excellency Dr. Sultan mentioned. We need growth. 1 billion people today are deprived of basic electricity that we all enjoy. So we need to be fair. And I think one point I'd like to just add to that on the investment side. It's very, very, very unfair of some in the West to say that African countries should not invest in oil and gas and they should remain green or whatever you want to call it, while this is a God-given wealth that they can create for their national growth and for their prosperity, and it is oil and gas that is needed for the world. And we should not forget the oil and the petrochemicals and what you need there. People love kayaks. They love the coolers that they take for picnics. There is no renewable that can manufacture that. It's oil-based solutions that get you there. Okay, so it's ethane crackers and plastics and so on that are needed. I know we need to do a lot of work there, but let's not forget the reality of what we need. A lot of stuff that you have around you here, and the decoration and the flooring and all that, is oil and gas. Yeah. What we're wearing. Okay, so let's be realistic while achieving the goals that we want.
Minister Suhail, I'd love you to build upon what you've just heard from your colleague with the question of the climate community perhaps dreamt dreams that were inachievable, but also from the fossil fuel provider standpoint, is enough being done?
No, I don't think we're doing enough, but there is a wave of new thinking. And I'm glad I see it more in the IOCs, in the NOCs. Typically, the technology and all of that comes from you, Discalci, and the others who are here. But I am really glad to see companies now thinking of reducing their carbon intensity, to see state-owned companies seeking the highest technologies to reduce methane emissions. And that is kind of a change in the industry that we haven't seen. We need to remember that the cleanest hydrocarbon is probably produced here in the Gulf. If we compare the carbon intensity of what we produce as a barrel here, and you compare it with barrels elsewhere, probably we have the cleanest barrels or the greenest barrels you can find. And that comes at an investment. It doesn't come free. I mean, us and Qatar and same with gas. You could produce gas, but you could produce gas also with the intention in mind to reduce the carbon intensity. And that's, I'm sure, what QP is doing, and Qatar Gas, and what ADNOC is doing. The fact that we here in the Abu Dhabi walk the talk and say that we will use the only electricity we will use in the field to produce oil is going to come from renewable or clean sources, that's by itself, it's a commitment. It doesn't come free. It comes, I'm sure, at a cost. But that's the cost that we are willing to do our part. And I'm sure we will see more of these actions. So we will do our part. But realistically, you need a base load. Until we reach a price for the base load to complement the 100% renewable energy, whether it's a battery or other technologies, we will need a base load contributor. And I agree with His Excellency Saad, for a very long time, gas will be there. Percentage-wise, it may reduce, and it will reduce. But in absolute numbers, it will increase, and it will increase significantly. What is the worry? The worry, with that increase in demand, we will not have enough supply. And gas and oil are a finite resources. They are not going to stay there forever. We have seen countries going steeply in decline. Only, I mean, talking about oil, and gas is like oil, only within the 23 countries with OPEC Plus. Since 2000, the reduction in the ability to produce is more than 3.7 million barrels. What does that tell you? That tells you that we are in a decline. In many countries, they are in the decline mode. Same with gas, I am sure. So not every country have the resources that Qatar has, or UAE has, or Saudi Arabia, or other countries. Many countries have started earlier, and they are in the decline mode. Same with the US. How many years? And are we going to have enough batteries or technologies to assume that we will have it and it's going to be uniform everywhere? I think that's a big assumption. But at the same time, we need to do what Sultan have said, and we are committed to do it as a country. We can afford to do it, and many countries will do. But can we enable and be a platform for inclusiveness, so everyone is enabled to do it? How many companies like Masdar we need, and how many alliances like the one with the US we need with the 100 gigawatt? India will need to install probably 500 gigawatt in the next 20 to 30 years, and more in China and many other countries. That's, I think, where we are. More renewable energies will be installed, but we need a base load. And for a base load, we need more investments in the gas.
Thank you for that, Minister Suhail. So, Minister Al-Kabi, I racked my brain last night about how to think about a question that linked the global energy market to the World Cup, and I couldn't come up with it. Lionel Messi just couldn't get into any of my questions. But congratulations anyway on the World Cup. Give us your view of what you foresee in the global gas market that might be preventing the market from reaching equilibrium. Is it the resources? Is it the investment? So much is being demanded of gas right now. So much is being demanded of LNG. If you had told me, 2 years ago that suddenly Germany would have, within 6 months, 3 new import terminals brought into the market by the Vice Chancellor of Germany, who is the leader of the Green Party, it would have sounded preposterous. So how do you see the future of equilibrium in the market, and what are the problems in getting there?
Yeah, on the German side, we were negotiating with the Germans for about 10 years. And suddenly they came to us and said, we want to build terminals. So, the world changes. I think the equilibrium will be achieved by hopefully some kind of a mediation or truce or some kind of a political solution where Russia and Europe get things, I think, sorted out, if you will, politically, hopefully, and the sooner the better. I don't think that this war and this situation will not last forever. And I understand that the Europeans today are saying there's no way we're going back to Russian gas. We're all blessed to have, to be able to forget and to forgive. And I think things get mended with time, and I don't think some of the countries that were depending 100% or a very large percentage on Russia will not go back to 100% or 80% or maybe 50%. They will diversify and they'll learn from that situation and probably have a much bigger diversity. But the Russian gas is going to come back, in my view, to Europe. Is it next year? Is it in 5 years? I don't know. But once the situation is sorted out, and that I think will be a big relief to the whole gas sector and to the whole market in Europe, and will stabilize prices. And again, as are coming on a big scale is our project from the US is going to bring about 80 million tons starting in end of 24 and then really peaking at 25. And then Qatar Energy's investments in our expansions in Qatar, 48 million tons are going to come. The rest are smaller projects that will come a little bit later. But other than that, that's the volume that's coming. And if governments and legislators do not promote additional gas investments, as His Excellency Sahel said, if I'm being very selfish, that's good for us. Mm-hmm. But that's not good for the development Hale said, if I'm being very selfish, that's good for us. But that's not good for the development.
So
Hale said, if I'm being very selfish, that's good for us. But that's not good for the development.
So
at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory announced one of the most significant energy breakthroughs in living memory. Aiming 192 high-powered lasers at a tiny spherical capsule just 2 millimeters wide, they're able to harness the same reactions of the power of the sun and stars to demonstrate fusion ignition, proving what until now has only existed in theory and paving the way towards what could be, one day, near limitless sources of energy for the future. And back in the UK, we're taking leaps of our own, because we're not just developing our very own fusion power plant, a spherical Toloman, on the site of an old coal power station in the Midlands. We're also operating the Joint Energy Torus, the most powerful fusion facility in the world, and taking the lead in regulating and commercializing fusion technology, working out the best way to get it out of the labs and into the real marketplace. There are stories of entrepreneurs and innovators working together to deliver clean, secure energy for millions of jobs, thousands more, and stories that tell us the fates of energy security, net zero, the economic growth are inseparably intertwined. Dependable supplies of fossil fuels, particularly natural gas, have a crucial role to play in easing the energy transition. We just heard about it in the discussion on the stage. But it's only by harnessing the power of transformative green technologies that we can also build a global energy system that's fit for the future. And whether that's in the UK, where we're developing small modular reactors, which promise to make nuclear easier, faster, and cheaper, and we've been running them in the sea for the last 6 decades, the Rolls-Royce-powered Trident submarines, or here in Abu Dhabi, where operations have begun at the Baraka nuclear power plant, the first nuclear power plant not just in the UAE, but in the whole of the Arab world, expected to deliver up to 1/4 of the nation's electricity when fully up and running. And where last week ADNOC announced $15 billion to accelerate its decarbonization strategy, investing in everything from energy efficiency, and electrification to carbon capture. Now, yesterday, I signed a clean energy memorandum between the UAE and the UK to promote energy security and investment between our two nations. Agreements like this really matter because when it comes to climate change, the whole world has a stake in it. And none of us should have to settle for less. So working together really matters to deliver a low-carbon future that isn't just more secure, but also makes us all more prosperous. But a future that's fairer is, I think, a future that is worth fighting for. Our international climate finance has already provided an astonishing 58 million people with improved access to clean energy since 2011. But we're delivering on our pledge to double up to at least £11.6 billion in that fund from 2021, reaching tens of millions more. Because the green industrial revolution mustn't leave anyone behind. After all, you can't just shut down your power stations and be done with it, leaving millions without energy or employment. That's where Just Energy Transition Partnerships come in, and they're mobilizing billions to support the transition from coal power to clean growth in key economies like South Africa and in Indonesia. And by investing in new green energy supplies, electric vehicles and hydrogen, they're providing security and opportunity for communities across these countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to say it's fitting that we're here in the UAE, 2023's COP28. President-elect Sultan Al Jaber and his great leadership and speech this morning, because it's here that we're seeing building on the extraordinary progress that's been made since Glasgow, built on in Egypt, that this year we will have to see those real developments in this stocktake COP taking place in November and December. We face challenges the likes of which no generation has ever faced before. So let me just take you briefly back to that solar sea in the desert that I talked about visiting last year. Today, they're building the tallest solar tower in the entire world, concentrating the heat reflected by tens of thousands of moving mirrors onto a single point. It'll be shining a beacon hundreds of meters above the ground and a lighthouse above the blue beneath. Innovations like this, creating power in new ways, they must be an inspiration for us all, guiding us all towards a better energy technology of tomorrow. But none of this can be done alone. None of it can be done alone. And I've talked about today about my fate, but not just my fate, but yours, our joint fates. As I say, because one thing is for certain. Energy today matters more than it ever has done in the history of humanity. In the face of great challenges, we have no oracles to turn to, nor do I have Delphic maxims to offer. But without climbing the steps of Mount Parnassus or any other high mountain, I think there is one thing that we can be absolutely sure of. We will succeed as humanity in doing this. One thing I can't be certain of is my faith, other than to say, I know the UAE will continue to be a big part of it, and I can predict with absolute confidence that I will be back here in December. I look forward to seeing you all at COP28. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a 10 minutes break. Please enjoy and we see you later to conclude the forum. سيداتي وسادتي، سنقوم الآن باستراحة لمدة 10 دقائق ومن ثم سنعود لاستئناف البرنامج.